Jordy, what's up? Just waiting on some people. We're going to have a whiskey tasting here. Just waiting over on YouTube. Hi guys, how's it going? We're just popping open some corn whiskey. This is some stuff made here in Christchurch. That'll be a bit of fun. I've never really done a live before, so yeah, I thought it'd be a little bit of an interesting thing to give it a go. Is everybody in New Zealand? Must be a few people from New Zealand. Be no reason to be up this time in the States or anything. Well, for the couple people around, I thought I'd just chat, you know. I'm drinking a bit of the corn. Should have like a spot for it right there. It'd be really cool, but I don't. I don't know. This seems like a bad idea the more you drink. But this is basically my bourbon, and I gotta say it's got a really cool little vegetal tone to it, but definitely a bourbon, without a doubt. So if you're into bourbons at all, I mean, this is the one. I don't know if anybody watching has tried this. We've got a restriction because we're talking about alcohol. That's all right. But basically, if you guys don't know, I make this here in Christchurch. 100% yellow corn, made in New Zealand. And this is like a spicy cream corn, like a rounded sort of caramel toffee sort of thing. You don't have all that full rye spice that you get out of a like a big regular bourbon, you know. But I think that's what I like about the corn. AI knows what we're talking about. That's funny. But yeah, I think like, I mean, if I'm talking like mellow corn, or I don't know, let's just say Buffalo Trace, for example. This is probably somewhere in between the two of them, you know. So if you've ever had anything like that, I've never been live before, so I'm sort of just checking settings and seeing what's going on. I'm a distiller. If you don't know, I distill stuff here in Christchurch, and this is one of them. But it's a fun little It's a fun little piece. What else is there to say about it? New American oak, 100% corn. I think it's the only one like it in the whole country. But yeah, I'm shutting down our whiskey stuff anyway. Soon, as soon as it's kind of all gone, the whiskey stuff's out the door, and we're pulling back into moonshine, which is corn as well. It's just sort of unaged corn. Of course, TikTok live, AI. This is all legal. I have licenses for this. Hey guys, we are tasting some corn whiskey, some stuff that I've made here in Christchurch. If you don't know, I was just saying it's somewhere between mellow corn, with a used barrel and somewhere like a Maker's Mark sort of idea. Cheers. And yeah, no, I don't know. It's one that's hard to describe. I think I was already saying it's kind of like ashy cream corn, a little bit of spice sort of thing to it. Can you get up in Auckland? You can order it. It's free shipping. Yeah. There's not a whole lot of it around. And I was just saying before, like, this is right now we're ending our whiskey stuff. We've got quite a few batches around, but we're wrapping it all up and going back to our moonshine roots. Just to seems to be what my brain sort of, what's the word? Yeah, it represents better, I think, as a moonshine brand. And I love the whiskey; it's great, but it takes at least 2 years. The barrels are expensive, the grains are expensive. Everyone puts their pinky up when they taste it, of course, and gives me their absolute hardest critic, which is fine. But I like the moonshines because you can do whatever you want with it. What do we got? I'm still learning the live stuff. Sorry, guys, I've never gone live before, so there's a lot of stuff that happens on the screen. Cheers, guys. Number one fan in the fan club, number one gifter badge. Oh, TikTok is fun. It's kind of like going on Temu, and it just overloads you with all the emojis and bright colors. I will say, it's been like how long we've been on here now? Only a few minutes, but that's the first sip I've had, and it is so much easier to drink than like some of the unfiltered bourbons, I suppose you could call them. Like Maker's Mark and stuff's already a really nice bourbon, Old Forester and stuff. That's really good. But this one doesn't have that rye spice. It's like the corn presents really neat, almost like buttered popcorn, even almost. If you want to go that far. Oh, it sounds so pretentious when you're just sitting in a room talking by yourself about it, but no, I think it's kind of a fun one. Yeah, the goal with this one was to sort of make a mellow corn imitation, if you will, but just New Zealand influenced and that sort of thing. And I think it's come out very much what I was thinking. I was hoping it would. I appreciate that the AI on TikTok knows exactly what's going on. Over on YouTube, there's nothing happening. It's a blank screen. It just tells you if you've had any likes and viewers and how much it's been going for. But TikTok, I love all the info on the screen. Do I have a favorite one? A favorite bourbon? I'm pretty partial to a good Maker's Mark. I do enjoy Maker's Mark. that wheated bourbon. I think if you get a bourbon with corn, wheat, and barley, it's a really it makes into a really smoothish whiskey. It's creamier. There's a whole lot of oils in that. Speaking of which, I've got another one we'll taste. This is Dusky corn, wheat, and barley, all malted though. So you won't find this sort of thing in the States usually. Usually you don't use malted corn. Usually you wouldn't use malted wheat, to be fair, either. And this one's got a whole lot of fun distinctions of what you can call it and whatnot. But hell, since we've already talked about it, why don't we just pull it out anyway, and we can chat about Dusky. Dusky is my favorite, probably of my lineup. If we're talking about Herrick Creek favorites, this is the one that started it all. Yeah, this was the first thing I made. It was the first thing we bottled as a whiskey. It was meant to be New Zealand's bourbon, 100% malted corn, and well, it's all malted, but it's corn, wheat, and barley. And the mash bill is a bourbon bill. Other than that, aged in new American oak, and named after Dusky Sound. So all you Kiwis will know where Dusky Sound is, and of course, the whole Herrick Creek brand is based around the South Island moose tail. So I always love telling people about that. People say it's a bit of a myth, but they were definitely there. There were definitely moose in New Zealand, and they might still be. But yeah, this one presents so different to the corn. And so for you just joining us, corn is the first one we tasted. This is our 100% yellow corn. It's just regular unmalted yellow dent corn aged in new American oak. And then I'm just pulling out the Dusky malted corn, malted wheat, malted barley mix. But this one's got way more going on. There's a whole new level of there's fruits that I almost never get in the corn whiskeys, but when you really compare it next to the corn, yeah, like you're taking the corn and then you're just dialing it up with all these sort of creamy fruits, almost like red fruit, but like pear and a rich apple. It's given me this is going to be controversial, but it's given me Scotch vibes. I'm talking like maybe like a Campbelltown kind of Scotch, thick and oily. And the fun thing about this one, would mix it with a bit of water. Would absolutely do. My problem is that when I distill everything here at the distillery, I'm so used to drinking it strong, I always forget to add water. But it's definitely a good way to open it up, change the flavor. They're both 46%, so there's definitely a bit of room for at least a few drops. Add an ice cube and let it sort of settle in there. And as you sort of let it sit for 5 to 10 minutes, those little bit of water just opens it up. It cools it down a touch, and you're going to get some different flavors. But it's always good to try it just as is, and then you can move from there. It might be a bit too strong, too hot for you right up front, and then you just move on and try a bit of water. But you can always add more water. You can't take it out, so it's always a good idea to start with less. Less is always more. And we will add some water. That's a great idea. But I'm just gonna have a quick taste. Cheers. Oh man, it's so different. It's so different to the corn. There's a whole new layer of complexity, like cereals, and I'm trying to pick it apart. I'm probably one of the worst for picking apart like exact tasting flavors, but I'll give it a try. I'll always give it a try. I'm definitely getting like wheat bix a little bit in that, along with this, bit of barrel char, sweet corn. The wheat is providing this nice oily mouth, feel to it, if you will. Wheat bix, LOL. Yeah, that's Depends if you like wheat picks or not, I guess, if that's a good note. I wish I was a Kiwi, but I'm Canadian. I just live here now, right? But it's been like nearly 10 years. I guess I can call myself nearly a Kiwi. But yeah, man, like between corn and Dusky, they're, they should be same category sort of thing, corn and corn, but this one's got the malted corn, malted wheat, malted barley. This one's just 100% unmalted corn. Yeah, two very different people. You're getting thick and oily with this one. This is going to be your much easier sort of entry level corn whiskey sort of thing. TikTok keeps restricting things. It's quite funny. Protecting the audience, apparently. Either you guys are commenting funny things, or it doesn't like that I'm drinking 2 glasses of whiskey at once. Fair enough. TikTok, you do you. While YouTube, on the other hand, continues to show me very little, if nothing at all. Just the timer, and that's about it. I've never been live, so this is all new. Now, the Dusky, this is quite fun. So in New Zealand, if you don't know about New Zealand whiskey, there's no real laws around it, except it just has to present as the general taste, appearance, and smell of whiskey. And yeah, so it's kind of cool that way, that New Zealand's really not restricted by the law, but it's also a danger, because they had this sort of problem in Japan quite a few years ago, and a lot of people took advantage of it, and Japanese whiskey got a real bad rap. So the distillers group, what we call Distilled Spirits Aotearoa, we got together as a group of craft distillers and made some rules around what should be a New Zealand whiskey, and it was pretty cool what they came up with. They've come up with a few different categories. There's just New Zealand whiskey, and then there's New Zealand single malt whiskey. So New Zealand whiskey just has to be aged 2 years in a barrel. It's got to be made, like mashed, fermented, distilled, aged all New Zealand. And 2 years is sort of the minimum, and that's that. But with single malt whiskey, New Zealand single malt whiskey, they've added, that it's got to be 100% malted grains, and it's got to be made on a copper pot still, which is actually a pretty unique sort of guideline around the world. I mean, even in Scotland, I don't think they actually have a guideline that you have to use a copper still anymore, but we do. And since we used 100% malted grains in this one, we can actually call it a single malt corn whiskey, which I think probably makes this the only single malt corn whiskey in the world, even though it's made with 3 grains, because it's primarily corn, 70% single malt corn whiskey, which is a bit of a weird, yeah, I don't know. I've never heard of it ever before around the world, but there you go. Now you've heard of single malt corn whiskey. Tell all your friends about the abomination. Cheers, guys. Is anyone else enjoying a dram, a cheeky drink tonight? Bourbon flavor exploration is what the TikTok AI is now calling this. Thank you, TikTok. All right, so we've got corn and we've got single malt corn. And then, oh, well, you know what? Since we're here, and this is not exactly the tasting I wasn't really sure what I was going to do, but I'll pull out this one here. This is a unique one. This is New Zealand red corn whiskey. I've got 4 or 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bottles. If I'm just kind of getting through them a little bit, and we can come back to them. If there's anything you want to see, if you know about our brand at all and you want to see anything, just let me know. I can find it for you. But this one's a bit unique. New Zealand red corn whiskey. I made this from Bloody Butcher red corn that I had to grow. My friend Chris, he's got some some land, and we went and planted the red corn by hand. I had the help of my Young Farmers Club. I was in the Young Farmers Club at the time, and they were great with helping me harvest it and weed it and all this garbage. We do not have the tools for it. I do not have the tools for corn growing, but we did it, and we got enough to make a batch. And this one turned out quite red as a liquid, which was really it just sort of happened that way. We got really lucky because we could use the same barrels, and it might turn out more coppery, or it might even turn out quite gold and straw color. So yeah, that was a pretty cool thing that it came out that way. So it's 51% of that red corn, and then 49% of Canterbury malted barley. So yeah, it's a bit of a unique whiskey. This, you won't really find too many red corn whiskeys around the world, just because red corn is not grown commercially in most places. You might find quite a few of them in Texas. There's quite a few of them over there. But this one, this is probably the hardest whiskey I have to describe, I think, because it's corn for sure. It's got this nice sweet corn vibe to it, but then it's got this sort of leathery, dried sort of tack room. If you've ever been into a like a barn with old saddles laying around or something like that, it kind of gives me that dusty leather vibe, along with dried corn sort of idea. Maybe a touch of like a peanutty, like a nuttiness to it. But it's full of flavor. Holy smokes. Reg, what's up, mate? How you going? Oh, man, it's oily. Like, I don't know if you don't drink a lot of whiskey, like oily just means it's really coating the mouth with all those flavor compounds, and yeah, it just lingers, all that flavor. And yeah, I think that the smell and the taste on this one, they're like basically the same. It's like a dusty, leathery corn, dry field. There's a touch of like that sweet corn sweetness, if you will. But I think it's one of the most unique whiskeys I made. The most unique whiskey I ever made last year, about a couple of years ago now, I guess, was the Wymack Blue, and it was the first series in the Heritage series releases, and Wymack Blue was a blue corn whiskey. And same idea, we had to grow that blue corn, and it was half blue corn, half barley. But that one had this really weird thing going on. That one was blue smoothie. I'd almost call it like a blueberry smoothie whiskey, and shouldn't have been. It's just blue corn, but it was unique. It's all gone, of course. Like it was a one-off batch. It was really small, and I wish I could recreate it, but there's just like not enough time in the day to grow more corn like that. That was amazing corn. The red corn is a bit more, close. It's closer to the yellow stuff. It's got a much, in its raw form, just ground up. It's quite nutty. If you've never seen like red corn, go look it up. Bloody Butcher red corn. It's beautiful stuff. I mean, heritage corns are amazing. New Zealand can grow beautiful corn varieties. We just don't, which is a shame. But they make great foods, great whiskeys. So why not? I say. But if I compare that to like the yellow corn. So if anybody's new, we were talking first about the corn, 100% yellow, unmalted corn, just basically a bourbon. And that one is so soft compared to this red corn stuff. Yeah, there's way more layers going on in this. The other ones I've got hanging around still my single malt. This is a lightly peated single malt whiskey. And I've also got hanging around one of our 3 bourbon releases. This is from the States. This is an American-made bourbon that we finished in a New Zealand barrel, a Pinot Noir barrel. So yeah, we can still get to those. I'm gonna have a sip of coffee. Coffee is probably my favorite thing to drink while drinking whiskey because it keeps my senses alert. And like I say, I don't really like to go too hard into these sensory descriptions. I think people could take them too far sometimes. People sometimes take drinking whiskey too seriously. I mean, it should just be a good drink, just something to enjoy. All right, I'm still learning TikTok here, TikTok Live, learning YouTube Live. We've just checking it out. Okay, very cool. I have no idea what half of this means, if I'm honest. But thank you for watching. If you're a whiskey lover, we're just talking about New Zealand whiskey. It's funny because the views kind of pop up and down, There's never more than 7 people around, which is cool. But I don't know who's new and who's the same. Is anybody drinking anything? Anybody at home having a cheeky dram? I mean, it's about 7:30 here in Christchurch, so it's the perfect time of night for a whiskey. I do make it. I do make this. I make all these whiskeys. The only one I don't make is one of these bourbons. But yeah, we got the corn whiskey. We've got our single malt corn whiskey. This is a fun one. And then we were just talking about our red corn whiskey, which is probably the only one. Probably the only one. Definitely the only one in New Zealand. Australia, there's one, and in the States, there's a fair few around. But it's just smelling dusky, the single malt corn. There's 3 corns. It's really hard to actually. I need like a table to show you. I could just make this really easy. But yeah, corn, malted corn, and red corn, and all very different. If I'm recommending these to people, I'm recommending a different one based on what sort of whiskeys you like. I mean, the price points vary from like 100 to 150 to $200, so that gives you an idea. Now I think I'll crack this one. Lake Maree. This is a single malt whiskey. This is our only single malt whiskey at the moment. If you don't know, we're doing a Pledge Me campaign right now to end our whiskey program. We're bringing it back to moonshine. And so there's a bit of this stock around, actually. We got a barrel full of it that we're selling, as well as we're doing a special bottling of one of the batches for it over on Pledge Me. So that's pretty cool. At home or at a factory. I make this at a factory, if you will. There's nothing to learn, mate. It's a fun hobby, if you can call it drinking a hobby. It's just a matter of sipping to enjoy, sometimes, rather than sipping to get to your end point, if you will. But basically, you drink it how you like it, and you like how you drink it, then you're having a good day. I certainly don't judge anyone how they're drinking it. If you're drinking it with your Coke, if you're drinking it with lemonade, if you're drinking it with tomato juice, I don't care. As long as you're enjoying your whiskey or your spirits. I think, we got Lake Maree is really good with some honey mixed in. Scarlett, cheers. Wish I had some honey. I actually haven't tried that before, but I'll pour a bit of this. It's a lightly peated single malt. So peat we actually can get here in New Zealand. We can get it down from Southland, a place called Herrick Creek, which is a great name. And Gladfield Malt, just down the road here, Christchurch, there in Dunsandel, they actually smoke the barley with this Southland peat. And then this one got aged in a big one. Well, to me, it's big, 100-liter American oak barrel. I split it into 3 little barrels. One was a maple syrup barrel. There was a new American barrel, and another barrel. Yep, I can't remember. But then I mixed them all back. Yeah, man. Yeah, if you're making alcohol home, usually it's technically it's moonshine, really. There's two definitions of moonshine, right? There's like unaged whiskey moonshine, and then there's illegal, not paying taxes moonshine. In New Zealand, luckily, it's legal to home distill, so it's not really illegal, but yeah, it's, you do you sort of thing. But yeah, this one's kind of vegetal, if I'm honest, like a dried garden. The smoke is really like small. It's kind of hidden under that vegetal layer. Dry veggie garden. Hot summer's day on a dry garden, and you're smelling like the beans. I don't know, whatever you're growing. Was it expensive to import the barrel? So I get like mostly small barrels, right? So I get 5 gallon usually, and I've found a really good cooper over in the States who makes like proper 5 gallon distillery barrels, and yeah, they're fairly expensive. They're probably like $500 a barrel for those ones, which is not much cheaper than just buying like a full size 200-liter bourbon barrel. They're probably $800 to $1,000 each for those. New Zealand, and but I like the small barrels. I like what they do for us. And that's why I buy them, But I'm selling them off anyway right now because we're switching to moonshine again. So it was fun. But we'll come back to whiskey again in the future when when we can. But I think I make too many products. Really, it's just me here. So here I am making. I mean, here on the table I've got 5 whiskeys, and then up on the shelf over there's 3 moonshines. There's 2 gins. Like this. Too many products for one guy to make, to be honest. I don't have the time. So yeah, this single malt, I mean, I can imagine that with a bit of honey and scarlet, and it would be fantastic. But I think at 47%, it is just easy to drink. The smoke is just sort of a slight ashiness. It's not like your big smoky whiskeys that you might have tried before. It's still got that dry vegetal garden sort of thing going on. Gentle sort of apple pear, I would say. Moonshine alcohol percent, I saw the strongest one is 50. So our original and our maple moonshines are both 50%. And our apple pie is 20% alcohol. Definitely go higher. I mean, it comes off the still around 85%. And it's great. Don't get me wrong, but no one wants to drink it that high, So, yep, single malt. This is we're just talking about this one. If anybody's new, Lake Maree, single malt whiskey. It's a lightly peated whiskey. Really proud of that one. That was our biggest batch of whiskey I ever did. I spent about I probably spent nearly 8 months making that much whiskey to fit in a full size barrel, and it turned out really nice. I'm glad I did it. It was a fun experience. At the same time, spending 8 months on one batch of whiskey is probably not the best business strategy, to be fair. But that's why I'm a small business, and I enjoy it that way. Now, the only other one here on the table I haven't cracked open yet is this one. This is our Explorer Series bourbon. So this is one from the States. This is one I didn't make, and I do this every year sort of thing. We've been bringing in a barrel of something, or a batch of something from overseas that you wouldn't usually get in New Zealand, and then we do something to it here to make it a little bit more local, if you will. It's an Explorer series. It's meant to explore what you can do with it. So this bourbon, we've done this one before. Our first batch of bourbon back in 2021 from the States was this exact mash bill, which is a wheated mash bill. I do love a good wheated bourbon, wheated corn whiskey. I think they're fantastic. This is made by MGP. So if there's any Americans around, you'll know MGP very well. And then I brought it in the barrel, and then we stick it into a North Canterbury Pinot Noir barrel, which is fun. So yeah, there's a lot of flavor going on in here between the bourbon and the wine barrel. Now, the question Is it possible to drink 80%? Absolutely. I drink it off the still all the time in very small amounts because it's dangerous at that level. It's not really, it's not enjoyable at 80%. I wouldn't say it's ethanol. It's basically all you're drinking. If you think about what's in the glass at 80%, it's just because you can doesn't mean you should. Thank you, Scarlett. Exactly. You got 80% is ethanol. Only 20% of that is water. So at that point, it's a poison, really. Now, I'll just pulled out the bourbon at the Pinot Noir, and this one's fruity, corn. There's all sorts of things going on with this one. It's almost one I've got to sit with for a bit, if I'm honest. If there's anybody new around, though, we're just chatting spirits. We've done the corn, we've done Dusky, and we've done Clarkville Crimson, the red corn whiskey. We've done Lake Maree, the lightly peated single malt. And then we're just talking about this bourbon from the States that we finished in a Wipra Pinot Noir cask. And like right up front, bourbon, your classic bourbon flavors, that big vanilla, that cherry, the caramel, and then it turns into this dark fruit. It turns into a nice dark fruit. It's a little bit dry, and then finishes off. It's as a bourbon, it's exactly what you kind of need from a bourbon, with lots of flavor. It's got the juice to it. It's got the oils, the fats, and that wine finish just really sort of rounds it out. It just gives it a new dimension. Bourbon sometimes can be a bit one-dimensional. If you're going to a bourbon tasting, sometimes you're going to get the same tasting notes. It's always, what do you get from this bourbon? Well, I get vanilla and caramel and cherry. What do you get from this one? Oh, the same sort of thing. It's somehow different, but it's the same sort of thing. So that's what I like about the wine finishes. At least you're going to get some fruitier sort of stuff. And the other one we did was a maple syrup cask. So that was a cool one. We've done a small batch of that. Still some available. And we did a port cask, which is even bigger, darker red fruit sort of idea. But the Pinot Noir was the sort of the main one. When we did it in 2021, people really enjoyed it. So we brought it back this time. Probably the last time we do Explore series for a long time. I'm just going to read that. I'm not going to repeat it, but that's funny. So now, on the table, you can't see them because it's down here, but I've got now 4 corn whiskeys. Corn, single malt corn, red corn and barley, and a wheated bourbon with a wine finish. So, if you're ever looking to try whiskey flavors, you don't need to go too far. I've got you covered with corn, but not forever. We are wrapping up the whiskeys and moving on back to our moonshine roots. So if you're keen to get a hold of some of our last whiskey stocks, we've got it available over on Pledge Me. It either bottles, jugs, or a barrel full of whiskey, but they're 20-liter sort of barrels. So if you ever wanted to own your own barrel of whiskey for about $3,000, you can. Weirdest moonshine flavor I've come across. I've had a lot of ideas for weird moonshine flavors, for sure. A lot of weird ideas. The weirdest flavor, though, you're stumping me a bit, if I'm honest. Hello. I don't know. I don't know what my weirdest one would be. That's a tough one. They're all pretty good, if I'm honest. Like, there's not a time. There's a time and place for every spirit out there, I think. And Wow, Canada. Where are you in Canada? I'm in New Zealand, actually. I'm a Canadian. I live down here, and I make whiskey in Christchurch and moonshine. We're moving back to moonshine. Um, so yeah, moonshine flavors. I don't know. We made a Manuka smoked one a while back. I got to say that was different for sure, but it didn't. I don't think it was weird necessarily. We did a watermelon one last year. That was probably it didn't taste that watermelony. Yeah, it should have been much more sweeter than it was. So anybody just joining us now, I'll just repeat it again. We've got whiskeys on the table. We've opened them all. If there's anyone you want me to talk about specifically, just let me know, of course. But right now, I was just talking about the watermelon was weird. Yes, it was. If we're not talking just moonshine though, and we can talk about weird flavors, I would talk about the one I tried in Tasmania, which is that sheep shit one. I love it. I absolutely love that whiskey. It's a smoked sheep shit smoked whiskey, rye whiskey, and it's the weirdest whiskey ever. But I love it, and I know many people I give it to do not love that one, but I think it's weird and wonderful in so many ways. Feijoa was weird, but I liked the Feijoa one as well. I think we need to do more Feijoa stuff in New Zealand. There needs to be a lot more Feijoa spirits, Feijoa foods, Feijoa everything. It's an amazing fruit. So I was just drinking that bourbon. I think that bourbon is a really good entry into bourbon because it rounds off some of those. I think it rounds off some of those harsher bourbon notes that you get when you get into bourbon tasting for the first time. I think that wine cask, the red fruits, they really just round it off. They sort of give you a nicer experience that way. How can I get into drinking whiskey? Is it an acquired taste? A little bit, it is, you're drinking ethanol at nearly, half, it's nearly 1-to-1 ratio, ethanol with water. And so, yeah, when you start drinking it, it can be sharp. No matter what you pick, you might get, it's going to sting your mouth. It's going to feel like the worst mouthwash experience of your life. But I think you can push through it. And it's not, you don't have to like torture yourself or anything. But I remember when I was getting into whiskey one time and I bought a bottle of Lafroig 10. And if you don't know, Lafroig 10 is like one of the peatier whiskeys from Scotland. And I remember getting home, cracked the bottle, and I smelled it, and I thought, "What have I done?" I've just bought this horrible smelling whiskey, and I poured myself a glass anyway. And I sat there all night long on the couch, and I didn't drink it. I just sort of brought it to my nose. And the more I brought it to my nose, the more I kept wanting to smell it. It was just an interesting smell to me, So I just would bring it up to my nose, and I thought, "Oh wow, that more and more. The more I smell it, the more interesting this is becoming." And then it evolved from that to actually wanting to drink it. And look, like there's not much in my glass, like you can pour a big glass if you're ready for a long night and you're drinking it slowly. But right now I'm just drinking very small little bits of whiskey in here. Whiskey is just meant to be sort of enjoyed slowly. And if you've got one glass in front of you, it's sort of one of those things you never take your hand off all night long. You just keep your hand on it and smell it just for the enjoyment, have a drink just for the enjoyment. It's a great way to have a little bit of alcohol with a bit of kick, with a lot of flavor, and there's so much that can be done with it, right? Are you supposed to drink it with water? You can absolutely drink it with water. So like if I take, these are all about 46 to 47% that I've got in front of me. Let's just take like the bourbon, for example, right? And I've got a glass of water over here. I'm just going to, you can use a syringe. You can use a pipette if you want, but I just use my finger, drop a few drops in the glass. And just remember, a little bit goes a long way. You can always add more water. You can't take the water out. So once you dilute it too much, it's, you're going to lose at some point the essence of the whiskey. But there's a point too where if you start adding water, it's going to change the flavor. It's going to open it up. If you've got a high proof whiskey at 50, 55, 60%, adding water can change it a whole lot. It can make it go a lot further, and it can add a whole another dimension. Ice cubes. This is a lot of times why people drink whiskey with ice, is that ice cube in there for 5 or 10 minutes is just going to add a little bit of dilution, open up the whiskey, soften it out a bit. You don't need to, go half and half or anything. That's going to change it drastically, and probably not for the better. But I definitely think, a few drops of water and see what it does with that is going to really help with learning your whiskey sort of tastings. Surely you can take the water out by adding more whiskey. Yep, you absolutely could. But if you're at a bar, let's just say, and you got a pour, you don't want to have to pay for a second whiskey to top up your first one, do you? And I can say that bourbon with a little bit of water has changed a lot. And I'm getting a lot more of the wine with that little bit of water added to it. The wine finish really starts to come through. And I actually think I like it a little bit more with that water. I love The Last Word. I was there last week as well. Alex, actually Corey, the bartender at The Last Word, made an old fashioned with the corn whiskey. We got it on the shelf there, and he's Canadian, so we get along very well just because we're both from the same country. And he said, "Well, Tom, I've been making old fashions with the corn whiskey, and I got to tell you, like, they're amazing." And I was there for a meeting, so I said, "Look, I got to wait a few minutes. Make me one of these famous corn whiskey old fashions." And he did, and it was the best old fashioned I ever had. And he said he used half the bitters, even because there's a lot of, there's just enough robust flavor in this that it was just well done. I won't tell you the price of it because it's not their regular whiskey for an old fashioned, so it was a bit on the expensive side. But it was, I will say, it was well worth it to try it. It was the best old fashioned I've ever had, and I'm glad I had it. Corey's an amazing bartender. And if you don't know the bartender's name, he's that's right. Charles is also great. He's fantastic. If you see him around, he's usually around that precinct somewhere. I feel like I was going somewhere with that. I was on a roll, but that's all right. We get distracted sometimes. Is there anything anyone wants to know about them? I think, we've gone from the corn to the single malt corn to the red corn to the bourbon, and then we had to talk about the single malt, the odd duck out, the peated one, the lightly peated one, if you will. All very different whiskeys made here in Christchurch. Oh, I would love to be able to go to The Last Word more often, but it is a bit of a drive from the burbs, if you will. And yeah, Charles is an amazing guy, amazing bartender. If you don't know Charles, go to the bar and ask who Charles is, and just strike a conversation with the man. He's a very interesting guy. In a good way. I think I want to go back to Dusky. I think, we've been here a while. Oh, look at that. AI thinks we're doing watermelon moonshine tasting. No AI. We are not. We are not talking about watermelon moonshine, and we will not ever talk about it again. Yeah, we can. Manuka whiskey. Yeah, we have absolutely done Manuka whiskey. In fact, I'm quite certain one of the releases we've got on Pledge Me right now is like a 90% Manuka smoked whiskey, and it's amazing. I think Manuka smoke is the key to the future of New Zealand whiskey. I think it just has to be. Like, it's such a Kiwi bush, shrub, tree, and it's got such a unique flavor. And a lot of Kiwis grew up with the Manuka smoked fish and stuff, which Some of them, it turns them off the smell, but for me, like coming to New Zealand from Canada, it was a new smell completely, and it's grass, it's sweet, it's almost honey like. It's not your Scottish peat at all. It's not regular peat. It's just its own new wood smoke that is really nice, I think. Um, yeah, Manuka smoked like 10 years ago. Yeah, and there's a few around. There's definitely a few around. Thompson Whiskey does a great one. Who else is doing it? We've got Lammermoor, they're doing one. Southward Whiskey or Southward Gin up in Wellington, they have released some unaged version of theirs, and I've tried the aged version as well, and it's fantastic. Who else? There's definitely somebody. There's people around. Manuka Smoke Whiskey is really nice. It's better than the Thompson one. Nice. I'd love to know what it was. Yeah, but I think if I was to keep making whiskey, which if you're new to the stream, we are shutting down the whiskey program, but I'm just talking about what's left sort of still, and we've got a pledge me going on where you can buy our old stocks of whiskey and some unique releases and whole barrels and whatnot. But yeah, if I was to keep making it, I would think that smoked is the way I would keep going with this. Corn's definitely where my love is as far as the ingredient, though, and it doesn't really go. It doesn't, you can't smoke corn really well, unfortunately. You can smoke barley really nicely, so that's why it's the ideal one for that. So I think if New Zealand whiskey is going to thrive in the future, we've got to look to that Manuka smoke. I reckon, anyway. Yeah, I've just pulled the Dusky out again. Like I was saying, the Dusky is a single malt corn whiskey, which is a really weird thing to say, but it is all malted grain. 70% of it is malted corn, and the rest is split between malted wheat and malted barley. But it is made 100% in New Zealand, and it is made on a copper pot still, and it's aged for 2 years. It is a New Zealand single malt whiskey. We just have to say it's a New Zealand single malt corn whiskey, because that's the rule, and I think it's quite cool. I don't think you'd find anywhere else in the world where you get a single malt corn whiskey, but it's my favorite. It's the favorite thing I make is that Dusky, and we'll probably, we're going to do a yearly Solera cask, and we're just going to keep adding to it once a year and then taking from it once a year. And I think Dusky is probably the ideal choice to keep putting in and out of that. I think Dusky's a really nice mash bill. If you haven't tried it before, you can also come see me at me or my bootlegger Ty. He's usually there on Saturday mornings, freezing cold. He's great, and yeah, you can come try it at the Christchurch Farmers Market, 9 a.m. till 12 p.m. So if you're ever heading that way. Thoughts on the Highland Park 18-year-old whiskey, one of your faves? I haven't tried it. It sounds awesome. I love Highland Park. So 18-year-old, I always find with Scotch is the my ideal range is that 15 to 18-year-old range. So yeah, I bet you it'd be amazing. Well, that Dusky is creamy, vanilla. The barley comes out, the corn stands out. There's a bit of real gentle barrel char to it. I just think Dusky is, with that fun mash bill of corn, wheat, and barley is so interesting. And if you're into bourbons, I would say keep an eye out for the ones with wheat in them. The wheated bourbons are really nice, and those are the ones that you get your Pappy Van Winkles from. That's the kind of stock that they're aging for 20 years, and that's wise because it's already such a nice whiskey. Whiskey is your cup of tea. It's my cup of tea as well, friend. There's so much going on the TikTok live screen. Again, this is my first time going live on TikTok and YouTube. YouTube is very basic. There's nothing on the screen at all. And TikTok's got so much happening at all times. And it's really fun to watch, actually. It's a bit like playing a game where I just keep talking. Now, let's pull out once again. We were talking, it's been a while now. We've been on here for, about 55 minutes. And the first one we talked about was corn. So this one was, it's a 100% yellow corn whiskey. It's just your regular unmalted corn, the stuff you'd feed to the birds, that sort of idea. It's meant to, my goal with this one was a mellow corn sort of idea. Oh, I've got to complete a puzzle on TikTok. It thinks I'm a bot. That's fun. All right. Insert the puzzle piece like a child. There you go, TikTok. So yeah, this was meant to sort of imitate a mellow corn. That's one of my favorite whiskeys. If you've never had that from Heaven Hill, it's a great corn whiskey at 50%. This one's 46%, but it's got a bit of a vegetal note. It's a bit of a sweet corn, sweet cream corn almost. It's very light and bright. There's, a bit of apple going on, like a bit of pear. Yeah, I mean, that's one I could smell a lot of, like I could sit here and smell it as much as I want. Bonus time unlocked. I have no idea what that means. TikTok, I'm so sorry. I have no idea. It's like, if you've never been on the Temu app, it's a bit like that. It's like a constant game on this TikTok live. Thank you, Steve, for all these fun things. GG, Kapai. Cheers to you. Thank you, Matt. Sent a rose. How cool. I don't think I've ever tried doing these the gifts on TikTok live. It's such a cool thing. Look at all these things. Look at them all. I love it. I will say, has the pleasure of me going, it's going good. We've got a goal about 15,000. And we think we're sitting just under 4 right now, 4,000. We just started it on Wednesday or Thursday last week. So nice. We had a really good start, which is awesome. I'm excited about it. It's there's just so much whiskey stock sitting back there. To me, it's at the moment, it's just cash tied up, and I've got to focus up and focus our lineup and focus the brand sort of thing. That's sort of where I'm going with it. And I've got, like 4 or 5 whiskeys. 5 whiskeys. Yeah, that's ridiculous for a one-man business. So I think it's time to just wrap up the whiskey, put it on pause. We'll come back to it in a few years maybe and focus on our moonshine, because the moonshine's really fun. If you want to buy some of our stuff, you can head over to our website, which is just herrickcreek.co.nz, HERRICK Creek. Or head over to the Pledge Me if you want to grab some of our cool, unique whiskeys. Just head over to Google Pledge Me, and I think we're like the first one on the campaign page right now. You'll just see the Herrick Creek is going all in on moonshine. And I think there's a few options around there for like $75, and then we've got some big 2.5 liter jugs of some of the whiskeys, and then we've also got full size barrels, which is really cool. Oh, New Zealand single malt tasting. It said TikTok AI. That's a little bit better. Good job, TikTok. Buy one of the whiskeys of yours. What would you recommend as your favorite? I like Dusky. Dusky's my favorite. I think personally, I think it's got the most body. I think it's got the most flavor, potential. So I think this is the one I would have, on my bar shelf at all times if I could. We had it all the time. And I know we've only got a few of them at the moment. So that's, it's pretty cool that we have it, because we only do it like once a year. If it's not that one, I'd say Lake Maree and corn have been our two entry whiskeys for a while. So the single malt or the corn whiskey. And I do like, I could go either way. I'm sorry. That's not a great answer. If your smokiest one, the Lake Maree. Yeah, it's not that smoky. None of these are that smoky, but there is definitely smoked malt in that one for sure. Hi, Hannah. How you doing? All is going well. We're just chatting about whiskey and moonshine and all sorts of fun things like that. So I just thought it was a fun night to get out here and talk about the Herrick Creek whiskey lineup. Since it's going away, it won't be here forever. We're doing the pledge me to get rid of all the old whiskey stock, and then we're moving on to the moonshine production, which we've been doing anyway, but we just want to up that production, have our moonshines available all the time, do new flavors. If you've never tried moonshine, I mean, it's unaged whiskey usually when you find it like commercially. And ours is just unaged corn whiskey at 50%, a really nice clean cut. And when we do a maple whiskey at 50%, which is like a dessert sort of whiskey, and then we do apple pie at 20%, which is sweet and appley, warm spice. It's my favorite thing is when we go to like an event and people, they smell it and they go like, wow, that actually smells like an apple pie. Yeah. Smoking right rear coming back. Yes. If we can get through the campaign, if we can reach that goal, we can do all the flavors again. Smoking right rear was our cinnamon one. It was actually the first thing we ever made, if I'm honest. It was even before our original moonshine came out. Our cinnamon one came out. And I love that one. It just takes forever to make it, unfortunately. So when I've got too many other things on the go, it's been one that had to take the back burner. But I do want to bring it back. It's the only one we won a trophy with, too. We won top flavored vodka a couple years ago at the New Zealand Spirits Award with that Smoking Right Rear. So that was cool. So I would really love to bring Smoking Right Rear back. That'd be great. I've still got some peach juice laying around. So we've got peach cobbler we'll do at some point. And then we get to try some other stuff like fruity moonshines. Way too sweet. Maybe I made it wrong. Yeah, it's a common one, right? So if it's too sweet of a moonshine, apple pie is a sweet moonshine. It's only, for mine, it's only 20%. Some people get theirs at 30, 35, even 40% apple pie. And you're probably looking for something like that, stronger, 35 to 40%. But even then, they can be still quite sweet. So you might be more into the maple moonshine, the 50% stuff, which is more of like a dessert whiskey, but it's not too sweet. It's not overly sweet. It's just enough sweetness to let you know that there's something sweet in it, but it's still a very sort of whiskey body to it. What days is your distillery open? We haven't actually been open much lately, but we, if you follow us on socials, we will update it for sure. There's a little cellar door here at the distillery. We were open on Saturday last week, and it's basically right now it's going to be about one Saturday a month here at the cellar door. But we are also at the Christchurch Farmers Market every Saturday morning from 9 till 12. So that's always a great place. You can meet with myself or our bootlegger, Ty, and he will give you some samples, and you can see them all, try them all within reason. We're also going to be doing some, if you're all in Christchurch, we're doing like the Otatahi Crafters Market and the Otatahi Midwinter Makate. And there are 2 weekends coming up here in Christchurch. So one's at South City Mall and the other is at Wolfbrook Arena. So that'll be cool. I think they're both free to get into as well. So if you're around on a Saturday and you need something to do, these are really fun little crafters markets with they're very strict about who they're letting in nowadays. So it's none of the Temu crap and AliExpress stuff. It's all really local handmade stuff. In what state is the distillery? In New Zealand. So we're not in America. We are down here, a little island down in the Pacific. I know I sound American, but I am Canadian, living here in New Zealand, living here for nearly a decade. And I'll give a quick shout out too to the Midwinter Session, which is coming up on August 2nd, I believe, which is a Saturday evening over at Wolfbrook Arena. And we will be there pouring drinks. That's going to be fun. So we're going to have apple pie drinks. We'll have some whiskey drinks, maybe a gin drink. And it's just such a good vibe that night. You've got all the local producers. It's all like Christchurch producers. And that's what makes it really cool is you go around, well, Canterbury anyway. You can go around and try all these different things and buy a drink here, buy a bottle there, grab some food, enjoy some dancing, and that Midwinter Session is a great time. So this is going to be our third one. This is the third time they're running it, and I think it's well worth doing. Let's pull the. I'll pull out the Clarkville Crimson again. I've been listening to your podcast. Are you doing anything special midwinter this year? The podcast, if anybody doesn't know, Distill Nation NZ is our podcast. I run that with my mate Cameron, who might be around somewhere here on the live stream. And we just talk about New Zealand spirits. It's really fun. You can find that on Spotify and YouTube and Apple Music, etc. But yeah, for midwinter, not doing anything crazy. Like we're not releasing anything, but we are just doing those markets and the midwinter session. Definitely just really getting through winter. I'm trying to keep production up. With fermenters being cold, it does make it a little bit harder to keep production level, make sure everything's working as it should. We've had some bad ferments as of late, and I've had to throw out some stuff, which is unfortunate, but it's not doesn't get thrown out anyway. We're just going to reuse it for cleaning ethanol and whatnot. Cheers, Matt. Thanks for that. New Zealand got some good rugby. Absolutely. The best rugby teams. Best rugby players. You name it. So I just pulled out the Clarkville Crimson red corn whiskey. I know we weren't really going to taste this one on this live stream, but this is one I had to grow by hand. Red Bloody Butcher red corn, 51% of that, and then 49% of it is malted barley. It's all from Canterbury, and it's just a really unique whiskey. It's sort of taking our corn, yellow corn whiskey, and then just dialing it up. And there's a lot more flavor into this one, I find. It's oilier, it's richer, it's got like a dark fruit note, like plum sort of thing going on to it. Not sweet, but almost, you know what I mean? It's a weird way to say it. Almost sweet. And like, yeah, almost, you could almost say like a sweet black licorice or something like that to it underneath there. I think it's just a unique whiskey, made from unique corn that you won't find anywhere else in this country. But it was a one-off experience to see what it would do. And it does make a great whiskey. It is also very hard to grow, as I'll tell you, because I did it all by hand, thanks to the help of my Young Farmers Club over in the Wymac. Lake Maree, our lightly peated single malt. Vegetal, lightly smoky. If you sip on that one, you're going to get layer on layer on layer. It kind of depends on what you were like kind of eating or drinking before, like what profile you get out of that single malt, which is kind of fun. There is still so many buttons on TikTok here. Discover ANZ Creator Network. There's a restriction, add live goal, popular live. There's a number. There's so much going on. Oh, AI, Dusky whiskey tasting. Amen, AI. We are tasting Dusky. Probably my favorite Herrick Creek whiskey. And I just picked up the bourbon. This is an American bourbon. Ooh, join my fan club. I did not put that there. This is an American bourbon. This is the only one I don't make, but we bring it in the barrel, and then we finished it in a New Zealand Pinot Noir barrel. And it's Yeah, it's got this fruit to it, like a dusty fruit, and it's you definitely get the corn. This is a corn, wheat, and barley bourbon mash, and I think it's really a nice, rich bourbon. So if you're into bourbon, you just want to see what wine and bourbon do together. That's the way. Zach, that maple moonshine definitely hits the spot. Cheers, brother. That is, it's probably my favorite moonshine, to be honest. Obviously, as a Canadian, maple syrup runs through the veins. So when I, went to make a maple moonshine, there was a lot of variations involved, and we came up with that 50% combination, and it was great. Just sort of taking the Canadian maple whiskeys and dialing it up a bit, and I think it works, and I'm glad we tried the summer maple one time, which was a 35% version, and I really liked that one. I think it was a bit easier to palate for most people, but it didn't hit the regulars right. The regulars wanted the 50%, so we stuck with that. Definitely more of that in Chicago. Yeah, absolutely. Would love to get more of it down into Southland. The licensing trust down in Southland is very difficult to work with, unfortunately, and we would love to work with them, but they have a very unique way of picking their products, and doesn't usually benefit the small producer, unfortunately. But yeah, that bourbon, it's had a little bit of water added to it, of course. We talked about that probably like half an hour ago now. They get the port from Cromwell. No, it's actually from it's from here in Canterbury. And if I'm honest with you, I can't remember which producer, but I know they're here in Canterbury. Yeah. And I wish I could remember who it was, but yeah, we seasoned that barrel ourselves with that port. It was sitting there for about a year. And when I opened up the barrel, it was actually all gone. All the port was gone. It had totally either soaked into the oak or evaporated. And I just thought that was kind of cool. That means that we just were getting the real rich bits of that, of that port. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, it was great meeting you. What else have we got here? Anything anybody want to try? So we've got, I guess I'll run through the lineup again since we're here. I mean, we've been here over an hour now. We could probably wrap this up in a couple minutes, to be fair. But we've got the corn. This is our 100% yellow corn whiskey, aged in New American oak. We've got Dusky corn whiskey. This is Dusky single malt corn whiskey. So malted corn, malted wheat, malted barley. Then we've got our red corn whiskey grown all by hand, along with some malted barley. So that's about half red corn, half malted barley. And then we've got the Lake Maree single malt whiskey, lightly peated, very lightly peated, I will add. So if you're not into peat, you don't need to be worried. It's not going to hurt you with a little bit of smoke in it. Finally, bourbon, American-made bourbon with the Pinot Noir finish on it. This is a lovely, lovely bourbon. The maple cream was the best. It was the best. It was very hard to make. What's the corn one like? The corn one it's almost like it's like my entry level whiskey almost for the lineup, and it's not what I necessarily imagined from it, because I thought the goal with this one was to make a mellow corn sort of imitation. That was sort of the goal, something along the line of mellow corn from Heaven Hill, which, if you don't know, is 100% yellow corn aged in used oak. But I thought New Oak would probably work. But it doesn't matter. It's created something totally different anyway. It's not bourbon. It's not corn whiskey in the American version of it. It's this middle ground of sweet cream corn, apple pear. On the taste, though, there's definitely a bit more of like the barrel spice to it, but still this nice, like, kind of underlying sweet corn thing going on. And it's an easy sipper, you know? That's when I'll happily fill a glass with a couple ounces of that and enjoy that all evening sort of idea. So that's where I'd go with our regular corn, which is actually getting pretty low. I don't think we've got a ton of bottles of that left. And then the only ones we'll have after that is what's left on the Pledge Me campaign. So we've got, I think we've got a whole barrel or two of the 20-liter barrels. And then we'll also have, I think there's one release in smaller barrels or smaller bottles, but I'll have to check. There's so many different ones. Have you played around the Gladfields Manuka smoked peat? Yes. So Gladfields does a Manuka smoked barley, and they do a peat smoked barley, and I've done both of them. We did a smoked South Island single malt a couple of years ago. That was amazing, and that incorporated both those smoky malts. And then I've refined it from there, and we have a barrel of like 90% Manuka smoke, which is beautiful. It's an amazing whiskey. I'll definitely, yeah, it's available on our Pledge Me campaign if you want to try some of that. I think we'll wrap it up. I think this has been fun. I think I've talked about them enough times. I know people keep kind of trickling in and out, and I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot, which is all good. But I just thought it'd be kind of fun to talk about the whiskeys. You know, they're here, they're fun. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me on socials or by email on the website herrickcreek.co.nz. Check out our podcast, Distillation NZ. Check out the Pledge Me campaign. That's really fun. I think there's a lot of fun stuff available. Some Pledge Me campaigns, I think, they don't really offer much, but I think in this one we've offered good things at good value. So it'll be awesome. We get some people on board with that. And thanks, guys, for joining. It's been fun. It's been fun talking about whiskey, New Zealand whiskey. And I think I'll do it more. Maybe we'll just do it during the day while I'm here working. Check on the old TikTok live, because TikTok live has been much more fun than YouTube live, I'll be honest. So cheers, guys.